How do you sort out the so-called jargon from real-world practices that work? Do the members of your organization find some business or technology advice utterly confusing? Welcome to Real Talk with Sam Holcman. In this program, we set the record straight, and in terms that business people and technology people can understand. Now, here is your host, Sam Holcman.
Welcome to this edition of Real Talk. I'm Sam Holcman, and the topic for this particular broadcast is lots of different names we're going to use. Technical debt. One I like is software bloat. And the other one that I've been hearing lately is innovation debt. In other words, the inability to move forward in ideas and concepts that an organization has. And basically all of these is something that you want to reduce. The first question, of course, all organizations should be asking is, how did we get there and how do we prevent it from happening again? So stabilization is great, and talking about technical debt is great, and software bloat and innovation problems and color coding red, yellow, green is all wonderful. The question is, what are you going to do about it? And how are you going to avoid it? Let me repeat, how are you going to avoid it in the past? And of course, it affects strategy in the long term, and even simple tasks sometimes turn out to be quite large because we don't have any of these things. Now, the reason for this, there's multitudes of reasons for this. Customized systems is one of the biggest ones. With all due respect, I say this, and sometimes people say, well, that means that you don't respect. Well, I do. Agile programming. The more lines of code that you have out there, the more it's going to be difficult without architecture to figure out what those changes are. Poorly written code. Speed is of the essence. I know that's the phrase that's out there, but poorly written code is going to cause that. And be in front of that, bad software design decisions. If the organization is not in what we refer to as maturity level 3, assembled to order, design decisions become incredibly important. No documentation, no roadmap, no blueprint, if you like that phrase. How do you make a change when you can't see the effect of that change prior to the change being made? That's the old, let's take a look at this and see what happens. And of course, it could really be an issue. And a lot of developers and a lot of people that are in that particular field and are responsible for the software says, we got to get the code out the door, So we prioritize speed over optimization of that information. And that all affects the concepts of agility. Back in a moment.
So you want to advance your career and see enterprise architecture as a key component to this advancement. Or you're an enterprise architect and you want to be more effective in addressing business and technology needs. You want to create highly effective solutions that deal with the ever-evolving changes in businesses and organizations. But accumulating the knowledge and certification to do that can be a challenge. That's why EACOE created a one-of-a-kind certification workshop for enterprise architects. The workshops will teach you proven step-by-step enterprise architecture techniques that you can use for addressing continuous business and organizational change, and give you the certification you need to progress in your career. Want to learn more? Then visit eacoe.org.
At eacoe.org, at EACOE, the Enterprise Architecture Center of Excellence, we have one-dimensional graphs and two-dimensional graphs. You want to call them charts? You want to call them flows? No. They're actually two-dimensional representations, one-dimensional representations, two-dimensional representations that give us an understanding of what is going on. And so as a best practice that we use with our clients that I'd like to give this audience, the first place we start is the following. We develop a model of the goals of the organization. Now, we're not talking about 3 statements like improve productivity, reduce costs, value your employees, value your customers, or value your stakeholders. 3, 4, 5 statements like that. We're talking about a robust, fully formed ontological goal model that provides us with quite a bit of understanding. The more we stratify that, the better we can understand these debt issues that we have. So if you can imagine just a moment, that's one axis. On the other axes, we have the technical assets. Now, those technical assets would be hardware and software, those two categories, applications, et cetera, et cetera. And what we would do, and what we suggest that you do as the first start, is to look at the goals that you're trying to achieve. On the other axes, all of those technical assets that you have, hardware and software, and very simply, no colors, no fancy stuff here we're talking about. Start off very basic, and essentially where there's an intersection between trying to achieve that goal and the hardware and software that are required to achieve that goal, put a symbol there, an X or a dot, whatever you'd like. And you get that picture. You get that picture of the complexities or the simplicities in the organization. I'm going to suggest that it's the complexities. Step number one, very simple. Look at the goals, map that against the assets that you have, the hardware and software, and quite simply, the asset that has the most number of goals associated with it, that's the one to look at and say, that one has to be extremely agile. That application, that hardware and software, whatever the combination is, has to be very agile in order to achieve all of those different goals. Then take a look at that application as a beginning and see what you got. And then continue that, and you can very quickly figure out how to approach a state that is much better than you are today. Hope that helps. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for tuning in to Real Talk. Be sure to join your host, Sam Holcman, again for another edition of our program. We'll have more real topics of discussion then.